Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are having an amazing, amazing day. I hope you guys have had an incredible week. It's so good to see you. Hello, Samantha, Marilena, Brian, Christine, Bianca, Knowledge. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is kind of a impromptu live that I've been wanting to do, and I'm really excited to connect with you now. I This week has been extremely powerful. And so I really have been feeling important downloads since last night and today on things that we want to kind of discuss and do. So I want to share this practice with you today. It is a very powerful meditation that I've been doing this week that has really brought a tremendous amount of clarity in what I'm doing, and especially harnessing these kinds of cosmic energies that are available to us at this time. And there are some main points that I want to share with you guys, and definitely let me know how your week is going. Put it down in the chat. Let me know, what have you guys been experiencing? How has it been for you? And of course, if you guys have any questions, please put that in the chat as well in capital letters so that I can find it and I can answer your questions. I do have a presentation that I made because I want to share an important point that came across this afternoon. I went to this incredibly beautiful nature space that allowed me to really connect with nature. And I think what's happening in these moments of major cosmic shifts is that the body requires a recalibration. And if you are not doing the recalibration in your own home or practicing in your own meditation practice, cultivating that life force in your own environment, it's really important that we go into nature and begin to connect with nature, because nature will automatically recalibrate you in alignment with the universe without you even trying, without you even needing to sit, without you even searching for that connection. Nature will always reset you back to your core. And the core is always changing in the sense that you are all in nothing simultaneously. You are a mirror of the universe, which is constant rebirthing, constant life and death cycles, constant regeneration. And it's also infinite potential. Okay. So when we begin to die, the human body begins to decompose. We begin to get old, we age, we begin to sag, we begin to get sick, ill in the body. When we interrupt that flow and the embodiment of that infinite potential. Okay, so when we come into the physical body and we are interrupting these cycles of natural flow, we cause ourselves stagnation, illness, any number of things that disrupt that inherent blueprint for the way that life force moves through every cell of your body. So this is something that is true subconsciously as it is interdimensionally. And the more that we block our ability to connect to that divine source, whether it's through nature or through our meditation, because remember that when you activate the energies in the body, when you activate your Merkaba spin, when you begin to connect with the functions of this geometry from its disruptive, disharmonious state into a state of balance and major connection, this is where the body begins to realign. And that 0 point that is created through your through the way that you are holding your energetic space is essentially the point in which it's an access point that connects you to all truths simultaneously. It gives you access to everything, which means that you're also in alignment with truths that transcend the limited filtered perceptions of whatever is occurring in your current life, whatever is occurring in the matrix mirror, and also whatever limiting perceptions or archetypal aspects of ourselves that we're trying to overcome as we incarnate into the physical. So this really becomes a very powerful, powerful tool to begin to transcend some of these limiting disharmonious embodiments in the physical body. So I'm going to read from a list of notes that I made after my meditation today that are super, super important, that I want to share with you. And all of them are directing towards this presentation that I'm going to share with you. So one of the major themes that's coming up this week is about receiving life as a journey of experience, as the collective. Okay, so what does that mean? So that means that um, what happens when we embody major shifts like this is that we begin to access memory, trigger memory of events and experiences collectively that have bogged down the soul, that have created stagnation in that flow of life force in the organism. And that stagnation of life force essentially takes you out of harmony with the universe. Okay. And there are certain laws of the universe that when we go out of alignment with nature, with ourselves, we essentially fall victim to the cause and effect of these laws of the universe. And I'm going to share the laws of laws of the universe with you now, so that you can understand the consequences of falling out of harmony with yourself and with the collective. Okay. So we need to heal. In a nutshell, it means that you take a look at your life as a journey of experience. So you are experiencing to experience, and that is really all that it's about. And our concept of purpose, because a lot of times we believe that our purpose has to be a very specific thing. We have to have, a meaning. It has to be of service. We have this idea. Remember, try to get away from cliches, try to get away from ideas. You have to come into your raw truth, your raw authenticity. The only way you're going to come into that, and even though it might look like what people are talking about, when you come into your raw truth, it's going to be very unique, very potent, and exactly what is required, not only for yourself, but for the collective. So remember, when we're in dormant state, we become followers and we just keep repeating things like parrots. We repeat what other people say, we repeat what people think, we repeat what they dress, we repeat how they look, we repeat their energy, their emotions, their illnesses, we take them on, their insecurities, doubts, whatever it is. Remember, we become repetitive uh, engines and mechanisms. Essentially, you are programmable, you are deactivating your DNA to the point where you are not in the conscious activation of this organism. And again, you fall into the law of accidents, and I will share that with you in just a moment. But essentially, what happens is that we are falling out of this alignment with the collective. And when we fight our real higher purpose in the incarnation of this physical body, we become stagnant, we become confused, we become disconnected and ill. Okay. So lots of things happen to us when we fall out of alignment. Now, one of the major things that block us from embodying the ability to journey as an experience in this physical realm is the fact that we have wounding as a result of traumatic experiences. And one of the questions that we want to ask, especially now in this healing, is what part of the wounding is being expressed at this time? Okay. So what part of that wounding is causing you suffering? And that's the question. Um, we need to heal the wound that's being expressed, because the one that speaks up, the one that acts, the one that chooses, the one that does all of these things is essentially that wound. So we want to know who is wounded. What part of you is wounded? Now, a quick recap on wounding. Why this is important right now, especially when it comes to this full moon, which more than just a moon, energetically, in the timeline that we're in right now, this is a major gateway for the next 10 years. Okay. And you guys have heard me talk about that many times, which is why this series that I've created is called The Apotheosis of Man, because we are reaching a pinnacle point in our ascension as a collective mass coming into consciousness, collective awareness that allows us to make a shift in timelines of the collective. Okay, so without our understanding and profound healing of the shadow self, we contribute to lower frequency, stagnation, and de-evolution of the collective. And one of the major mechanisms that's been happening over the past 20 years is the resistance. It's a natural resistance that is created by the cyclical imbalances necessary to the evolutionary process of this earth. Okay, so anytime that we are going through heightened waves of evolution collectively, there will always be resistance in that. And so we want to begin to gently push through that resistance in order to be able to come into our highest expression as a whole human race, because the whole human race is the DNA of this Mother Earth, the Earth being another organism of consciousness that is also evolving. Okay, so the Earth is also evolving. So in the same way that humans are experiencing to experience, the Earth is also doing the same, because it's an organism of consciousness. And in the same way that the Earth is doing that, the galaxy is an organism that is a collection of all its planets. And the universe is a collection of many systems. Okay, so we are, again, organisms within organisms that interconnect in order to create cycles of experience. And the concept of planets and galaxies is through our perspective, but in reality, there are many dimensional layers, and I'll show you that in just a moment, okay? So talking about the wounding, who's speaking? Is which one of the wounds are speaking? Okay, so how do we begin to identify that? The way that we begin to identify that is by looking at, first of all, is it the feminine? Okay, so really briefly, let's discuss the wounding. When the feminine is wounded, essentially what is immediately present is that we have a blocked intuition. Okay, we lack trust, so we don't trust ourselves or others, and we have fear and doubt. Okay, so this is the feminine. So keep an eye on yourself, take a look at yourself, and take a look at which one of these is most expressed in your life at this time. Is it a block with your intuition and your higher self? Wounded feminine. Okay, is it a masculine wound? And the masculine wound is all about the action. Okay, so stagnation, paralysis, confusion. Okay, anytime we feel lost. Okay, so that would be the wounded masculine. Now, of course, we are going to probably have any certain amount of either of these that we are battling and we're working with. But I want you to kind of identify, based on that kind of very, very simplified idea, which one of those is most acting in your realm, in your life, what's presenting more, okay? And essentially you want to understand who is speaking, because these two, these dualistic expressions of the feminine and masculine are essentially mirrored in the human race. Okay. However, many of us humans on this planet have more wounded masculine or wounded feminine. We contribute to the imbalance of the energies of the imbalance of these dualities collectively. Okay. So we have gone through centuries of cycles. Okay. And over the past few cycles, you will notice that some years in those cycles, as you look at the history as it's been told to us, or more importantly, as you begin to connect into the DNA of the earth, you will review the world history. And what you'll discover as you review the world history, and I also want to mention that it's important to review the world history through your lineages, which are directly related to your evolution and your healing. Okay, so as you take a look at that work through DNA reprogramming or whatever technique you use, notice how the cycles are flipping constantly. Some centuries, some stages, phases in our evolution are more masculine based, and some of them are more feminine energy based. Okay, right now, this moon and this cosmic moment in this collective era is healing the wounded feminine, because the wounded feminine is the intuition. When the veils are thinning because of the vibrational frequency that we are at a collective whole, it is the invitation to enter into the interdimensional, into the non-physical realm. But in order for any organism to navigate this interdimensional realm, it is required for us to have an acute cultivation of our intuition and our intuitive faculties. And again, we cannot access the intuitive faculties with a wounded feminine. It is the mother wound. Okay. So I'm not talking about sex. This is the energies within the bodies of the feminine and masculine. When we embody the mother womb, we sever ourselves from our source. It is the mistrust. It is the doubt in the self, the doubt in the collective. Okay, so this is what is being expressed and manifested in our collective organism, planet Earth at this time, which is being built and healed. The past 3 years with the pandemic were an intense invitation into understanding discernment. Okay, it was absolutely designed to bring humanity into the question of discernment. Okay, so how did you apply your discernment during that time? Many people felt lost. Many people felt confused. Many people didn't know what was up, what was down, what was true, what was not true. This is an initiation into the next phase of collective humanity, into intuition. And you will see in the next 10 years as we evolve forward that the veils are going to thin more and more, which means that the new language of humanity will be that of vibrational frequency, to the point where our communication will be telepathic. We need to move in that direction. And as always in this organic system, the inorganic, or for example, the unconscious, the subconscious, conscious, and the aware and the dormant, okay, the activated and deactivated, okay, the organic and the artificial, you can say. So when we are in hypnosis, when we are unconscious, we enter into a state of almost like robotic repetition. Okay, so dormant states means repetition. Conscious awareness means evolution, which means life and death or progression. Actually, I don't even want to say the word evolution. I want to say infinite potential, the embodiment of infinite potential, as it is constantly morphing and moving into infinite potential. Okay, so this is what we want to embody. In order to become infinite potential, you have to be okay with the unknown. Okay, because the power of the alchemist and the human in the three-dimensional realm, in which you get to explore and experience both the physical and the non-physical. That's the key. In this realm, you get to master physical and non-physical. It's up to you, right? So the more you master the physical, the more you attach to the physical and re-experience the physical. Again, repetitions. The entire universe is designed in spirals, right? So everything is cyclical. So if you embody the non-physical form, if you master the non-physical aspect of yourself, you will then also experience the non-physical. Now, there is nothing wrong with either of these aspects of yourself, because as a whole, your organism is being directed by a higher laws, as I mentioned. These higher laws self-organize intelligence to maintain harmony always, okay? And essentially, just the way our physical bodies fight off an infection, okay, in order to create harmony in the body, homeostasis, we as a collective are doing the same. So essentially, the root of where the inception of these profound wounds, the feminine and masculine wounds, are actually the core of our purpose here incarnating in this life, because these wounds are initiated at the time of birth. Okay, so the moment we are born into this dimensional plane, we are taking on that birth trauma. It is essentially how we descend from the infinite potential into the material. Okay, so imagine infinite potential now comes into this limited vessel, seemingly the limited vessel, through the cycle in which we sever our connection to remember, and we go into that amnesia, right, in which we do not remember anymore, It's enclosing. It's a closed system, closed loop. We talked about open and closed systems of creation and embodiment. Okay. So essentially what that means is that to counter this birth trauma, this is the most important thing. Why did we incarnate into the physical is encoded in that moment of birth. How you felt at the time of birth, your perceptions at the time of birth will design your entire life purpose. Okay, because it sets the tone for the experiences you're going to be having in your life. It's the subconscious blueprint of your entire system. And in that is adopted an archetypal influence. Okay, so that archetypal influence is kind of like the higher purpose. And I'm going to show you that in a presentation right now where that's going to make it easier for you to understand. Okay, so when we disconnect from source, we are basically distracted and disconnected from this collective connection to the whole. So let me share my presentation with you. Let me come into the chat here. Hello, Doug Dingdup. So good to see you. Donald Dean, Jimmy, wonderful to see you. Blanca, Marilena, thank you so much. Jessica Anderson, Samantha, wonderful. I'm going to answer the questions at the end, so bear with me, guys, okay? Please feel free to share this live if you feel like you are getting something out of it. And let me go ahead and share. All right, so of course, the theme of this presentation will kind of take on a little bit of this moon, because this moon really is a very powerful, powerful cosmic gateway to important information that we need to access. So those of you that are meditating tonight and this weekend, you will benefit from the ability to manifest. And that's why I did this presentation today. In our meditation today, we're going to be working on that manifestation, okay? And part 2 will be on Sunday in my Self-Love Sunday program. So I love this because it says life is real only when I am, okay? A lot of people right now, they are questioning their incarnation. They're questioning their life purpose. And I had an incredible session this afternoon with a young boy, the most beautiful star child ever, that is just so incredibly conscious. And I mean, at his young age, he recalls the stresses and anxieties of his life, and was able to integrate it immediately and transmute it by immediately understanding that his perception of a person that bullied him and said, you know, you don't belong here. You don't belong here on this earth. You know, too bad you were born. So that little word that it told the child triggered this feeling like, you know, should I have been on the earth? So these are the kind of experiences and events that we have all gone through at some point in our life. But for some people, it's profound. It's been a major theme this week. Almost every person I work with this week was questioning their incarnation, their purpose. Do I belong on this planet? Is this, you know, why am I here? So this is a major question that we're coming into as a cosmic embodiment. And the invitation is really to understand how important your incarnation is to the collective and the role that it plays, okay? When you know who you are, you become the whole. I want you to remember that. When you remember who you are, you become the whole. This is really important for you to understand. Now, let's take a look at what I was mentioning about the purpose, okay? Now, why are we here and what are we here to experience? Remember that our purpose here on this experience and this earth is essentially to experience, but what the question is, what are we experiencing? Now, these main essences of life force are essentially what are infused in us. Now, the outer sphere, okay, the outer sphere influence of your purpose. This is what your purpose is essentially made up of, the formula of your purpose. You have a higher purpose, which is your soul as an experiencer, which is infinite potential, okay? You have a higher octave, which is the genetic memory. And this genetic memory essentially includes, and this is vibrational memory, okay, beyond the physical, into the morphogenetic field of the collective as all, includes your interdimensional fractals, your higher DNA, council invitations, those of you that working with star families, star people, and your ET lives, your interdimensional fractals of yourself. So your Arcturian DNA, your Pleiadian DNA, all of these genetic aspects of yourself that play a role in who you are. Okay, so this is the higher octave of the that is encoded in your intergalactic memory, essentially. So this is also playing a role in your purpose. This is where all of your contact experiences are passed down through your DNA. So you have certain experiences in dream state, and those are also passed down through your DNA, through the mitochondria, as from your ancestors. Okay, so that's why we talk about ancestral memory. When the ancestral memory is activated, we remember who we are. We remember who we are. We remember, and it's definitely not in the terrestrial plane. This is an interdimensional construct in which we enter into, and it plays a role in our purpose. And then we go into the heaviest wave of data that participates in our purpose, which is the collective trauma of the earth. That's the earth DNA. So the matrix that you incarnate into this three-dimensional realm includes matrix programming, ancestors, all of your ancestors that you've had, the collective trauma of those ancestors, the ancestral trauma of those ancestors. And this is where you will also find past and future lives. Now, each one of these realms of data is encoded in your DNA. So these three bands of energy represent the information that make up your DNA. And they also represent the Platonic solid expression and essentially how information is fractalized in your DNA. Okay, so bear with me. DNA essentially has this dodecahedron shape, but also can be holding on to different shapes within that. And this goes into a much deeper conversation that I'm not going to have tonight, because it's an entire thing to understand. But the way that DNA is built in the body, constructed in the body, creates geometric patterns, as you see here. Okay, and each one of these geometric patterns has certain number of the way information is organized. Each one of those geometric patterns collectively creates a geometric form. This geometry is essentially a crystallization of your higher light body. Okay, so everything that you are is encoded within the geometric shapes that are encoded in your DNA. So we are expressing, and in your lifetime, you can express and you can have more of one geometric aspect than another. All geometric shapes are can be found in our code, because again, you are all. What's inside these the Platonic solids are basically the building blocks of all matter, of all consciousness, a construct of this physical, non-physical realm. And essentially, they also define the realms and how information is moved. So in the same way that we have this information, these turn into the strands of DNA that make up your physical body. Because these are the banks, the data banks of information that inform everything that you are. Okay, they inform everything that you are. So essentially, let's go over here. So what we have in this information that we are holding in our DNA is both your immediate ancestral information, your collective. Okay, this is all Earth DNA. And then also, let's say this is just an example, your interdimensional fractal of yourself that runs in the family lineage. Okay, so this is an example of one of these cords of information here. Okay. In the higher octave of information, you are looking at family councils. Now, why do I talk about that? Because many of you that have are very lucid in your dream state, and we should all be working towards lucidity in dream state. It's incredibly important that you do, meaning that you remember your dreams and that you understand who and what you're interacting with. Why? Because this is where the majority of your activity as a soul, as a major part of your soul fragments are taking place. And to not know what is happening in those states creates a major lack of remembrance in your physical state. Okay, you are still in an amnesiatic state where you do not remember how to tune into this information. When you activate your DNA, you begin to access this information. Okay. And the DNA that I'm showing you here, we can go up to 4-strand DNA potentially, but this is just what we are seeing with our human biology. Remember that DNA is also holographic and not physical. And when that is activated, this DNA essentially ends up becoming a sphere. It creates a spherical system of multiple spirals that create the organism of your body, which includes the physical, non-physical morphogenetic field. Okay, so let's take a look at now the information that we are parsing through as we embody this ascension, this quote unquote ascension. Now, ascension is a natural aspect of existing in this organism because it is constantly moving. Okay. And it is moving in such a way that we are all experiencing, and we have the opportunity of experiencing many levels of creation. Because one of the main aspects of our incarnation in the three-dimensional plane, remember, three-dimensional plane, is that we are to create the third, okay? The three, law of three, mother and father unite in order to create the baby, right? This divine Christic consciousness, this potential of creation that we have the ability of creating. So we are embodying that manifestation in all ways, physical and non-physical. How? In creating life, the children, the next generations that we bring into this planet in order to sustain the matrix, in the words that we speak, in the intentions that we have, in the thoughts that we create in dream time and the activities that we have in dream state, and in the physical through our actions and our entanglement and whatever we are experiencing in the physical. Okay, so essentially the way that we are managing our manifestation life force will define the experiences that we're having in the moment and also as a whole. And when this organism no longer is in alignment, in resonance with this dimensional plane. Okay, so that's obviously through death. So we are cycling and we have the opportunity of experiencing all of these creator states, either in this lifetime or in all of our lifetimes that we've experienced, and we have gone up and down through these cyclically. Okay. So as we are cyclically experiencing all these potential aspects of ourselves, it allows us to be all and nothing at the same time. And all of this is memorized in your ancestral, genetic, and interdimensional DNA. We also, remember, when we fractalize into this physical realm, are experiencing archetypal aspects of ourselves. Okay, so let's go back here, just a quick recap that when we are looking at our purpose on the earth, we're looking at the collective trauma, hierarchic genetic memories and ET lives, and also your infinite potential. So when we look at the archetypes, essentially the archetypes fall through different filters of refraction. Okay, one being your genetic memory that fractalizes yourself into interdimensional aspects. Okay, so these interdimensional aspects of yours usually are within however number of dimensions that you manifest into whatever form that is experiencing these higher octave embodiments. These are part of these higher octaves, and it's no longer really in the platonic solid filter of creation. It's actually going into higher creation levels, which human organisms aren't necessarily connecting to. Okay. And archetypal aspects of ourselves are organized here in this sphere. Okay, because the refraction into a lower band wave of frequency requires that light to be organized in some way so that it can move around in this dimensional plane. So anything having to do with our ancestors, we refract into ancestral fractals. We refract into past and future life fractals of ourselves. Okay, so that would be all of these archetypal aspects of ourselves. And these, when we identify our archetypes, they become our purpose because they define the layers of perception that make up who we are. Again, remember, at birth, the trauma that you experience creates a filter of perception, and that filter of perception is then formed until the age of 7 into a very strong archetypal identification. Okay, and that archetypal identification is a culmination of a photograph of your astrological cosmic influence as well. Remember, when you're born, you have a bunch of influence of planets and cosmic bodies that are frequencies that are programmed and photographed and incorporated, are compounded into your DNA of your physical body. And this affects psychologically and the subconscious mind. Okay, so everything that I'm talking about right now is the subconscious mind. So archetypal aspects are subconscious, and so are these cosmic aspects. Now, these layers, when I talk about these astrological aspects, I am not talking about these specific signs. I'm not talking about like popular astrology. I'm talking about universal astrology. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. Okay. There are some similarities and some overlappings to those, but I want you to focus on the archetypal aspect of cosmic photograph of yourself rather than just astrology. Everything that was present at the time of your birth is encoded in the inception moment of your life. Remember, I showed you the video of the egg being brought into life and creating that incredible spark of energy, right? That implosion of life force. In that is encoded all this information. And we are cycling in all of our lifetimes. We cycle through all of these, okay? Cycle through all of these. Now, there is, in a way to know when a soul is younger and older, because it'll define at what phase of their evolution they're at, which means which one of these archetypal aspects they're experiencing at the moment. In reality, there's no such thing as an old or a young soul, because remember, there is no time. It is all simultaneously. It just means that in this cycle, they are experiencing more of one archetype more than another. Okay, and most humans have experienced all of them. It's just in this dimensional plane, the archetype that they take now, the body that they take now, the family they incarnate in now is specific to this experience of either being a young soul or an old soul. Okay, but most of us, and this goes much deeper into laws of the universe that I cannot get into today, because some people will hear this and they'll be like, no, that's not true. We are, some of us are young, like we haven't incarnated that many times. But remember that we are one. And if you understand the law that you're one, you can't differentiate that. Okay, there is no starting point. It's the chicken and the egg concept. There is none of that. It both exists simultaneously. Okay, because you are none of those. You are not form. You are life force. That's why. That's the reason why. You are infinite potential. So if you are infinite potential, you have the ability. There is never one way or a beginning and an end to something. You are everything. And there is no organism that is born that is higher consciousness than source or lesser consciousness than source. It is all a manifestation of infinite potential. Okay. And they are all equally important to maintaining a balance in the collective. So to experience the whole, then, what does this mean in your life purpose? The whole point of this is that we learn how to integrate all of these cells. Okay, because why? Because in this lifetime, we are cycling also micro. Remember how the fractal functions? It's just infinite self-similar constructs infinitely. Okay, so in that same way, psychologically, we are not only do we have a strong archetypal aspect that takes up psychologically the greater form of our life, influence in our life, but also subconsciously and micro, we are cycling in the entire lifespan of our existence in this incarnation. We are also cycling through the many archetypes, archetypal phases of ourselves. We have that opportunity. We don't have to. Some of us, we maybe go between one or two archetypal aspects of ourselves, or it totally depends on what we choose to experience. Okay, but I will tell you, for example, in my life, I've experienced all of these archetypal aspects, all of them. And I know many of you have as well, and you're aware of it, you know it. And those of you that are even more lucid in your training in dream state, you also become aware of how you navigate archetypal aspects in dream state. Because remember, you are doing more in dream state than you are in the waking state. Okay, so this awareness really funnels into your purpose as a human. Your human purpose is complex, and it's made up of many layers, very important, valid layers that actually feed into the collective purpose of the whole. But essentially, we are becoming one. We are becoming one with the whole. Okay, in order to become one with all, you need to integrate these selves. And that's what DNA reprogramming is all about. That's what this healing process is about. You will find that when you're healing, when you're doing healing work, that in order to heal, you have to shift your perspective. Now, bear with me. Let's say over here in one moment, you are the innocent in your experience, okay, as a child. In order to heal the wound of the innocent, it has to begin to see itself as an artist, a ruler, a caregiver, a jester, a lover, a hero, a magician. Okay, that's how we heal. We broaden our perspective from one myopic view of perception of trauma in our lives. When we broaden that perspective, that's when we heal. When we begin to see other people's perspective. Let's say you are a child and you begin to see mom's perspective, dad's perspective, aunt's perspective, brother's perspective. You then begin to expand yourself. You become one with those that you experience the trauma with. You become them, they become you. You learn how to be all. And in our lives, in our healing process, this is what integration is about. The process of retrieval, the retrieval of the fractalization of yourself in that moment. In order to become whole, it has to become all the colors. Remember the ranges of frequency, right? You go from being fractalized ranges of frequency into the white light again. Okay, I'll be back to that slide in just a moment because it's really important. But essentially, that is the healing. Now, let's remember what happens. All of these fractalized aspects of yourself, this is what your body looks like, essentially, right? And our body essentially looks like this. And when we are navigating the physical realm, when we are conscious in waking state, we are integrating our lives. Okay, so our life experience from birth until now, we need to integrate the fractals that have emerged from trauma, from all of those experiences that created fractalization. Broadening the perspective of all of the traumatized fractals of ourselves so that we bring them into wholeness until they become one with all. That's how it heals. You are waking up. So imagine that every single dot that you see on this screen is a color code. The darker the colors on the dots are lower frequency, slower wavelength. The brighter, the higher the color. Okay, the brighter, the lighter the color, the higher frequency. So we essentially want to bring all of the dark spots, the dark dots, which are the points of references that are created by fractalized aspects. So what you're looking at here essentially is your soul. Your soul as it is refracted in dimensions, multiple dimensions. Every color that you see here is a different dimension, because the vibrational frequency signature that the fractal experiences will self-organize into its corresponding dimension. Because remember, every wave of frequency, every frequency is a specific wavelength. Okay. Now we can't all see all those wavelengths. Remember, the human only can see certain spectrum. But over here, this, let's say this extraterrestrial here in this image, just an example, is functioning in gamma rays. Okay, just an example. Okay, so we won't be able to see that until we go into gamma rays as well. You understand? So the process of the human as a purpose is that we incarnate into the physical realm and begin to integrate and retrieve the fractals of ourselves from the lower myopic version of that part into a whole, integrated whole. That is the process of integration. The process of integration is to become one with all, and you are the all. This is the all. This is the all that you need to work within. When you integrate your all, this is your universe, your DNA. This is a holographic projection of your DNA. DNA is the database of the soul. You navigate future aspects, ET, interdimensional fractals of yourself in higher octaves, past lives, future lives, parts of you, which are organized in archetypes, right? So here's like Queen Elizabeth or some queen. Okay, some queen, I think that's Marie Antoinette. So you have the archetype of the queen. And so this is very relevant to the influence that affects the subconscious programming within you in this lifetime. And it affects your creator state, right? It affects your creator state. So those archetypal aspects of ourselves affect how we are holding space in our body. So in order to essentially, deal with this, I want to add one more here. Okay. So here are the laws of this. I'm gonna say this dimension simply because the laws that pertain to other dimensional constructs with other geometric laws. Okay, so let me add something to this. Okay, right here we are experiencing three-dimensional plane. Okay, so in the third dimensional plane, our DNA is made up of all dimensional layers. So all the platonic solids can be found in our DNA. and they express because it's holographic, not limited to this physical. If our DNA was only, let's say, in this, utilizing this platonic solid in the three-dimensional plane, then we would look like a completely different organism. We wouldn't look like a human body. We would look like something completely different. Okay. So I also want to mention that the reason why we see interdimensional beings the way that we see them is because of the construct of their DNA, the DNA that is expressed within them. So for example, larger brains, because larger parts of their geometric structure are highly developed. So for example, intuition, telepathic aspects, larger brain, larger cranium, creates an entire geometric form in their bodies. We have something different. Okay, so for example, we talk about the star, the 5 elements, the pentagram. Okay, so all of these partake in the structure of this geometric shape that we are. Okay, and so does our DNA, activating this protein writing system. However, it's holographic, and we have many forms that we have ability to access. Okay, so essentially, in this realm, in the law of three, we abide by certain cosmic, not even cosmic, it's laws of the universe, multiversal laws that exist within this dimension. And those laws are the following. Okay, so this is information that I'm sharing. I don't know if there are other laws that other people have created. These are my laws and the way that I see it. So please, you can use it, or you can, just let me know what you think. But these are my laws that I have seen and created within, by navigating these universes, what we abide by. Okay, so number one, resonance. Okay, so again, we talked about this many times, but in order to come together, things have to be in resonance. It is the law of the universe. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you are in suffering states. Keep that in mind when you're in denial. Keep that in mind when you're in pain. Keep that in mind when you are happy. Keep that in mind when you are ill and when you're healthy. Resonance brings together. It's the law of how you even incarnate into this realm to begin with. The law of resonance self-organizes information into balance. Okay. Okay. The next one is free will. Okay. The law of free will states the following, that in the law of free will, all organisms, and this law is the reason why we are here to experience. This is why I know we are here to experience, rather than giving a specific purpose. You're not here to deliberately to help someone else or to be of service. Those are constructs that we create, because we are learning. We are learning what it means to be multidimensional, universal organisms. Okay. But the law of free will states that you have the ability of experiencing infinite potential. And when you realize that you are sovereign in the ability to master your dimension by learning your body, learning your psychology, learning and integrating mind, body, and soul, you then can begin to utilize your free will. If you do not integrate and get to know this physical vessel and the laws of the universe, you are not abiding by any level of free will. You are only cycling through cyclical patterns of programs. Okay. And I probably should have put these in some intelligent order, but I will put that later. Okay. For now, we just go through these. Okay. Because I just made these. So the next one is unconditional love. Now, unconditional love is not an emotion. We need to break the idea that love is an emotion, because it isn't. Okay, love is not an emotion. Love is a state of being. It's a state of existence. Unconditional love is actually the embodiment of the all. And that's why it's so difficult for humans to embody it. Because in order to embody the all, you have to break down the barriers that don't allow you to see yourself as infinite potential, and to trust yourself in this, the illusion of this physical finite system, physical body, biology, that you can be okay in the unknown, any potential unknown, right? Because we're just remembering that we're not this body, right? When we remember that we're not this body, then we can begin to navigate the infinite potential, um, you know, as this incredible non-physical and physical organism that is integrated. So that unconditional love is the ability to love this vessel, not an emotion. It's the learning and the profound learning of your body, your mind, and your soul. That is unconditional love, which allows you to see yourself as the whole. When you learn the body, you know that you are not separate from anything. You are one with everything. Okay. The next one is creation. We are here to create. Why? Because we are in the three-dimensional plane, which again is the father, the mother that creates the third. Creation is an inherent result of that mechanism. And that is the law of this universe. So why is this important? Because when we are not in creation, now there are many sub laws that allow the organism to create. Okay, so when we don't follow the sub laws, which means harmony, we go into counter creation. Okay, so the integration of the feminine and masculine, with the feminine and masculine are at war, you cannot create. That's the law of the universe. It goes into counter creation or destruction, because it's that charge, positive and negative charge, that comes together. Okay, so this is a law of the universe. When you are breaking these laws, you cause yourself suffering, separation, illness, and death. Okay, so the next one is no coincidences, nothing is random. Absolutely nothing in this universe is a coincidence. And this is a law of the universe. Please understand. When you understand this, you can suffer less, number one, and you begin to understand higher reason behind the things that happen, and you also surrender. This full moon is about surrender. What is surrender? It is the embodiment of the healed feminine. This is my point. All this to get to this point, right? So when we are healing the wounded mother, the mother wound, we now understand that everything is in harmony. And we can surrender because we now trust, and we realize how futile it is to feel these profound emotions of longing, sorrow, denial, resistance. And so essentially we come into this incredible empowered state in which we now remember that there is a higher law that is an ordinance of our existence, and that is to experience. And once we heal the traumas of our current life, we now can graduate from the matrix cyclical suffering programs into higher states of creation. Okay, again, here, right? So when we are cycling unconsciously in our human DNA, human ancestral programs, matrix programming, we're over here. This is the kind of archetypal aspects that are most present in our life. We are in our God is power, protection. It's just all about competition, ambitiousness, judgment, action, and all of these serve their purpose. We are in survival state. Okay, or there is no God, which means that there is a complete what is the right word? It's severely severance or cutting off of our connection to source. Okay, so that connection to source, because we're not talking about gods, deities. Okay, so the lowest form is to believe in God, meaning something outside of you, a deity, a god, a statue, a name, a symbol, is more powerful than you are. So we worship, we completely let go of our power to something other than ourselves. So what happens is that we embody the survival self. So this is the lowest form. So religions, all of those religions that are advocating that something external to you is more powerful, more important, more valuable, more wise, more intelligent. Okay, I see this even with ETs. It's becoming a religion. Where people are in reverence to Arcturians, Pleiadians, Lyrans, whatever. There is nothing outside of you that is more powerful than you. And as soon as you understand that, you become the other. That's the key. So the illusion of separation has to be dissolved. So anyone abiding by the laws of religion anymore have to be severed into this unity consciousness, where they now go inward to connect with the source that is them. They are the source. They are the fractal of that source. And these next couple of years will bring humanity into that understanding in a very powerful way. Okay, so this is just the first step of that. But essentially, we are only swimming here. Okay, so let's say we graduate now into a higher consciousness, and our God is now awareness, reflection, communication. We're open to communication, compassion, and peace. Okay, so this is where you start coming into prophets, seers, clarity. You start to have like higher intuition, right? And so now you become the prophet, the one that speaks truth, the one that sees truth, experiences truth, embodies truth. That's a completely different state of being. Okay, so the concept of, you see, when I say the word God, like people are kind of like, what do you mean God? Because we relate it so much to religion. But God, I mean, I don't even know what God really means, in a sense that we apply meaning to these words. Okay, we apply. So I want you to just gently dissolve the meaning that you have in your mind, because many of us have quite strong subconscious connections to these words, which, remember, we applied those meanings. We did. So we need to question whether those meanings are accurate. And one way of questioning that is by understanding the laws of the universe, which help you shift out of a limited perspective into a broader perspective that is inclusive of all natural laws. So this is where we enter into these higher states of awareness. And then in the highest form, now we're looking at more non-physical aspects of yourself, which you are. You're all of this, by the way. You are all of this, and you have to get to know all of these levels. There's no jumping, there's no skipping, because this is the other law of the universe. You are one. You have to go to all of these levels of yourself. And some of you remember, some children right now are born here in number 6, for example. They speak the language of energy. They are embodiments of truth and awareness, and they're already there. And some of you have already been there, but you forgot because of programming. Okay, so I just want to remind you that this is essentially the embodiment of that. And so we are here to embody this incredible state of co-creation, which means there are no coincidences to your existence or to any of the phases that you might be experiencing. So another thing is that people are so hard on themselves, saying, oh, I'm not at a better place, or I'm not more evolved, or I'm not this, I'm not good enough. Remember, when you surrender to your current state, when you are truthful and you are congruent with what you are in now, you can remove blockages in which you now see yourself as the true self, because all illusions of not being are an illusion. Okay, you already are the whole. It's just a matter of remembering. So again, and that's coming to this one. I'll just skip down here for a moment. The laws of remembering and forgetting, that because we move in laws of cycles, because this entire universe the construct of this universe is abiding by cyclical patterns, self-similar patterns, Fibonacci sequence that creates these fractal spiral movements of self-similar expression. We are moving through ranges of frequency, because the way that that Fibonacci cycle functions is that it is expanding and contracting in order to create the spiral and toroidal movement of its expression. So it means that we are cycling through higher and lower octaves of frequency every spin, every cycle of the way. And when we have the contractive cycles of frequency collectively, we forget. So remember, when we're born, when we go through the birth canal, we go from that womb, a more expansive state, even though it feels like a confined state. You are connected to the source before you come out into the physical body. You go through the birth canal, you come in through a contractive state and into the birth, which is into this life. Okay, you are brought out of that womb, out of that safe space into this. And you might think it's the opposite. You might think that the womb is the contractive state, but actually that's the expansive state. When you're born, you come into contraction, right? Because you are experiencing that severe trauma and severe contrast into the physical realm. So that severe contrast is immediately where we forget many of the things. That's the contraction that occurs. And then the first 7 years is another phase of expansion or contraction, depending on what you experience. So again, we are moving through these cycles of remembering and forgetting. And the idea is that the one that becomes the all is the one that remembers all. And essentially, waking up means that you remember all of these fractals of yourself. This is why hypnotherapy is such a powerful technique, because you enter into the subconscious mind in which all of these fractals exist, that you begin to remember, oh yeah, I was Marie Antoinette and I learned this lesson and I embodied this truth. And I was also this Arcturian and I am existing. And was is the wrong word, is, because we are existing simultaneously. So when we tune into these fractals of ourselves, we remember what we are, and we are pulled out of the contractive state, the contractive illusion of the physical world, where you think I don't belong, where you think I'm not part of this, I'm not good enough, I cannot love this vessel. Love is unity consciousness. It is the embodiment of the whole. So again, going into this next law of interdependence, that there is nothing that is separate. That's the thing that we need to remember, that we think that things are separate. Separate is an illusion of this dimension, simply because we experience duality. But they're actually two sides of the same coin. It is the energies and the frequencies that bring together to become one. So in this universe, we are deeply interdependent of one another. We are deeply interdependent of the organisms that are co-creating our existence, okay, in the construct from which we perceive them. We are deeply interdependent psychologically, in a sense that in our family lineages, we are cycling through collective trauma, that we have an opportunity of breaking those cycles when we come into awareness. Okay, and all our ancestors, which are fractals of ourselves, depend on the next generation to bring it into consciousness, because it releases their contraction as well. Okay, so we are a very, very interdependent system. The concept of independence is kind of an illusion that doesn't exist. Sovereignty means something else. Sovereignty means mastery over this temporary vessel. Okay, so nothing ever disappears. So transference of life force, you don't die ever. So your soul exists in all, as all, simultaneously in the now. And any part of your all that you go to in dream time or in any time that you access as a part of yourself is also infinite. Okay. And so the law of energy, remember, this is physics. This is our basic physics, that energy cannot, it doesn't disappear, it just transfers. So, you know, when we think of negative energy releasing, it doesn't disappear, it just transmutes. It goes through that transduction process from a lower frequency into a higher frequency. That's what we are. That's what everything is. And that's what all these experiences are. And that is your purpose. Your purpose is to become a conduit of transduction mechanism, organism that transmutes death into life infinitely through many experiences. Okay. And the law of accident, which is really, really important. Essentially, the law of accident means that when you are not in harmony with any of these laws, things will happen in the physical realm and even in the non-physical realm that bring you back into the laws. So accidents, wake-up calls, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, traumas are the law of accident. When you no longer traumatize yourself, when you are no longer becoming traumatized by anything, you're transcending the law of accident into creation. Okay, and then the law of cause and effect, which is a universal law that it's a cause as well of the interdependence unit law. Okay, everything that we do has an effect, and everything that others do have an effect on us. This is the interdependent system of co-creation. So you need to understand that in order to understand the power and the importance that your existence has in the collective. It's massive, 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 massive. Okay. And the final law that I want to share with you is the law that we are one. And these are laws of the universe. These are laws that are part of this experience in these dimensional realms. They are the foundation of all potential creation. If you understand these laws, you understand nature. Nature is an expression of these laws. So if you study nature, you will understand these laws. If you study yourself, you will understand this. If you study the universe, you will understand this. If you understand psychology, you will understand this. Okay, so this is very important. And this is important because these laws help you come out of suffering on any level. So if you are suffering, I want you to sit with these laws and to begin to come back. Okay, so let's run through this. Your source of infinite potential becomes refracted through the dimensions, which can refract in different ways, producing different products. Archetypal, within the fractalization of your infinite potential in this dimensional realm, I'm only talking about this dimensional realm, we embody archetypes. The information is self-organized into archetypes. It is fragmented into fractals, in which exist past, future aspects of yourself, ancestors, interdimensional and extraterrestrial. I don't want to use the word extra, but I'm saying it for people that don't know the reference to interdimensional. Interdimensional is extraterrestrial. Fragmentation, parts of yourself, which are non-physical, psychological fragmentations, fractalizations that occur to you, you become fragmented. Okay, so when we come into disassociation, for example, when we feel something and someone tells us no, we don't, that can create a disassociation in which we don't know what's real, and right there you become fragmented. When that fragmentation is enforced, you become fractalized, just to be clear. And our DNA is the blueprint of that is self-organizing in your genetic construct, including your chakra system, your endocrine system, all of this infinite potential in an organized manner through organized ranges of frequency. Okay, so essentially you are all in nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. I'm really Happy that you guys joined me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those super chats, guys. Really love you. Thank you for that. And let me come into some questions really quick. Make sure your questions are in capital letters so I can find them, okay? All right, so hi, James. How are you, James? Great to see you. Let's see. My energy body came out from my crown chakra and traveled millions of distances in 2.2 to 3 minutes. I was vibrating the whole time and saw space around me. What was this? Right. So as you just saw, we are navigating in dream time, and when you enter meditation, you are shifting the brain waves. Okay. So in meditation, the deeper you go, the closer to higher movements of brain waves you can access. Okay, just like sleep. But in sleep, you're accessing them through REM, which allow you to enter into higher octave. You leave the body, essentially. Okay, so the same thing, the deeper you go into meditation, the more you can travel interdimensionally, farther and farther every time. That's why those that meditate have amazing hypnosis where they can remote view. Essentially, you are remote viewing, you are telepathic communication, you are bilocating essentially your essence into all of these aspects because you exist in all of those aspects simultaneously. Okay, so that is essentially what that is. So awesome, good job. Continue that work. Keep going. Keep exploring in order to integrate your fractals. That is the purpose. Okay, questions in capital letters, please. Clementine, thank you so much for that super chat. It really means a lot to me. Love you. Thank you so much. That really helps me keep this information very open for you guys. Okay. Ice Lily says, so then it is harmony within we are embodying, not harmony with everyone outside of us. It seems nearly impossible to achieve harmony with one person in my life, and it troubles me daily. Correct. And this is awesome that you brought it up, Ice Lily, because this is also what came up in my meditation today. That precisely that, our harmony becomes a filter for perception, but essentially it's a universal filter. And when we embody harmony internally, because you are the source of your state of harmonious embodiment, nothing external to you can trigger you out of that harmonious state. So that is essentially what we want to embody. Okay. We want to embody this harmonious state so that we can begin to shift in how we interact. And remember that when we begin to look at other people and trigger by these emotions and expressions, we are immediately expecting and putting expectation on another organism to provide the source of harmony for us. So we immediately need to check and redirect our energy, because that immediately becomes an entanglement and a place in which our life force is becoming drained. So we want to be mindful of that and integrate that back into the self. And what will happen, and this is becoming, it's changing. Okay, the universe is changing. Years ago, it was easier to come into this harmonious state in which you can take back your life force. Okay, now we're going to graduate level of this work, where absolutely your harmony cannot depend on anything external, but you need to anchor yourself. You need to grow your light. It feels like it's more contrast because of the vibrational frequency of the collective right now. It is asking us to raise the frequency. And when you are in perceptions of duality, you will feel the contrast even more. So remember, it's completely dependent on you. When you raise the vibrational frequency to the higher octave, you are no longer in that swimming pool of resistance and contrast. So as soon as you start feeling the triggers, raise up, okay? Blanca says, thank you for the presentation. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. Taylor Brown, good to see you. I done one of your workshop meditations last night, and all of my solutions were simply to surrender, like you said. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. That's the one we want to come into. Okay, very good. Can you please share another example for the law of accident? Okay. Any time that we fall asleep, something will wake us up. That's the simplest way I can tell you. Okay. When we are in dormant state, I want you to observe yourself the times that you are in unconscious states, how you find yourself imagining like death experiences or really sad experiences. You think of your mother's death, and then you run through this imagination of yourself grieving and the calamity that will come of that tragic situation. This is a symptom of profound sleep, and to wake up from that, we stop imagining, and we imagine from the sensory body that is wounded. Okay, so when we imagine from the sensory body that is wounded, we perpetuate suffering in our lives, because what is creating is wound. And it's creating wound in the imagination, creating wound in our experiences, creating wound in relationships. So again, these wounds are repetitive programs that are inherited through your ancestral lineage. And so you want to understand, what are you repeating and why? When you wake up consciousness, what does that mean? You're present every moment of your day where you can catch what your thoughts and emotions are doing. That's what it means to wake up consciousness. Okay, and I, of course, provide you with interdimensional tools for that help you, because our bodies are an instrument. And when we learn how to utilize the mechanism of this instrument, it's easy to embody the present moment, because there's a way to do that. When your root chakra is wide open, it's really hard for you to be in the present moment, because there's an entire connection. The root chakra is survival. It's connected to the amygdala. Okay, so that's survival mechanisms, fight or flight. So it's really hard for you to shift your perception when your chakra is out of balance like this, because it's connected to the gland of your body that produces stress hormones, right? And we're addicted to the stress hormone. So when we close that chakra, we now sever the input into the physical body that creates the stress hormone. We lessen the influence of those subconscious programs that are expressed into the body. Okay, so this is where we begin to shift in how we are embodying that. So the law of accident essentially means that we are in control of this body no longer. And remember, creator states, it's exactly the same thing. We become the perpetual victim. Let's just really briefly go back to that when we're in the state of protection, we're the victim. When we have no God, things become our God, right? These are people that are, let's say they're like completely embedded in science of things, in the mechanisms of things. That's all that they care about. They need to see mechanism, they need to see the science. So but there is no intuitive connection. And I love science, I'm connected to that as well. But I'm just saying that we embody and we worship the material. We become materialists. So when we become materialists, we sever the connection to the source. So essentially, the law of accident is playing by these laws here. Things that come into action: judgment, duality; punishment, competition; comparison, logic, rules; false gods. Okay, so in these realms, we are abiding by the law of accident. Now, the higher you go, there's also accidents but they change. And this is a really good, I'm going to write this down. It's a really good video for another time, but we want to understand law of accident in different dimensional embodiments. That'll be a video for another time, because the higher you go, you also have the deeper fall that you can take, because you're familiar with all the layers going up to the highest point. So it can, any one of these layers on the way down can feel comfortable, and you can get stuck in any one of them. And the law of accident has higher contracts. This goes into contractual experiential agreements. We make experiences, we make agreements for, let's say, the people that we're, the souls that we're going to help in this lifetime. And if we embody fear, or we are afraid at some point, or we doubt our power somewhere along the way, we sever our ability to hold space for those other people. And don't worry, because the entire system readjusts to balance anytime. And again, as I mentioned, the laws of the universe, nothing is by chance. Everything is designed with a purpose. But the way that there's a mechanism to these things, okay? So when you don't come into your highest expression as you have an opportunity to, the consequences are also matching that level of consciousness. There are people that make experiential agreements with some ET groups, some councils. You need to write a book in the next 2 months. If you don't write a book, you're going to get sick. Now, this is just a thought form, but it's input into the body by the experience of the interaction with the being, filtered by the perceptions of the creator. And because the creator has profound subconscious beliefs of guilt and shame, they see this incredible being give them a purpose, but they apply it through the filter of shame and guilt. So there's a consequence to that. So that's an example of the law of accident. Therefore, they will become sick. They agree to that because they believe that. If you don't believe that, you're not going to get sick. So this is just an example. And we have many ways of embodying that. Okay. So let me close this. All right. So thank you so much, Geraldine. Grateful to open computer this morning. Perfect shape for today's morning. Yay. Train, thank you so much. Cedric says, what is gamma level brain waves? Okay, so brain waves, let me see if I have that here. Brain waves are essentially occurring. Give me a moment, let me find it. So you guys, okay, right here, perfect. Brain waves. Okay, so every brain wave that we have, so the lowest ones that we hold is delta. Okay, so this is like, we're detached awareness, healing, and sleep. So detached awareness essentially means when you're in a hypnosis, unconscious hypnosis, not conscious hypnosis. There's a difference, okay? When you are hypnotized by someone, there is someone that maintains your level, that is controlling your level of awareness. When you are unconscious, when you're driving on a highway and you just check out for like 30 minutes and you don't even know how you ended up where you are here in this delta state. What happens when your body is vibrating at this brain wave? Now, I want to mention something. The strongest electromagnetic field in your body is emanated by the heart organ, not the brain. This is very important to understand. So what that means is that when the brain wave is at such a low frequency, your entire organism becomes a host to attachments, all kinds of things. Okay, so you become a host because you're vibrating at a low frequency. You're basically not there. You're not in your body. You're somewhere up here. Okay, theta brainwaves is the next up. Okay, so this is when you come into meditation, when you come into intuition, when you access memory. This is terrestrial memory. Okay, higher states of conscious will access different levels of your memory. You have different levels of memory, as I mentioned in the chart of what's input into your purpose. Okay, alpha state. This is the state that we embody when we ground ourselves. Very important. When you create, when I ask you to G-pack, ground, protect, align, co-create, you're coming into alpha state. This is relaxation, visualization, and creativity. This is the embodiment of your body. When you're not home, you cannot create. You also cannot abide by free will. You also cannot abide by the laws of the universe because you're checked out. Okay. Theta and meditation is not, this shouldn't only be here in theta wave, because all of these deeper waves can be accessed through meditation the deeper you go. And there's many people that study this by attaching little your little brain things here to measure your brain waves. Okay. So this can all be measured. This is all that lovely science. Okay. So the deeper the brainwave goes, so gamma, for example, 30 to 100 hertz is when you come into deep, profound insight. And remember that you might fluctuate in any number of these throughout your day, depending on what you're doing. The moment you come into channeled states, peak focus, expanded consciousness, you are operating in a gamma hertz. Okay. So this is what it means. And so we essentially, our body also is operating, the organs of the body are also operating at different waves. Every organ is operating at different waves. Okay. So Cedric, I hope that answers that. Love you. Thank you for being here. Ice Lily, our bad luck days, law of accident. Yeah, so there is no bad luck, remember, because again, we want to look at the laws of the universe. Everything is with a purpose. Everything is cause and effect. There's a self-organizing system. The only time we have bad luck is when we are abiding by the law of accident, and we haven't reset the karmas, the influence of cause and effect that is affecting our day, which is why I tell you to meditate, dissolving your karmic contracts daily. Because every morning that you wake up, you are reborn, and you are an effect of what you did in dream state. Number one, you are an effect of everything in your DNA. Two, you are an effect of everything in your programs and everything that you've brought yourself to be until this moment. Three, so you have all of these influences that are all encoded in your karmic contracts. So when you wake up in the day and you're abiding by these laws, these karmas, yeah, you're going to be perpetuating suffering. So bad luck is the perpetuation of your own suffering through your own unconscious state. This full moon, when I woke up, it just felt different. Finally, again, internally, which is amazing. 100%. Thank you for helping us. You're so welcome, Lisa. Love you. I have missed this connection. I have been lost, which never happens to me since last working on your December lecture on my own in January and February, as I had to stop to take care of my family matters. Wow, awesome. Thank you for being and joining us here again. All right, my loves. So, we're going to continue today's workshop tomorrow with a full meditation, and it'll be in the morning. So join me tomorrow for a profound meditation, the embodiment of this lecture for part 2. Okay, and part 3 is on Sunday. All right, I want to love you. I love you, and I want to thank you so much for being here today. And of course, if you would like to share this live, you can do so. And if you want to support me, you can go ahead and super chat and or support me by sharing with your friends and family. And if you want to work with me, you can work with me at my website at geraldineorozco.com and subscribe, please. Love you. See you tomorrow.